It was late January 1959. In the Soviet Union's Ural Mountains, the sky was a pale, sunless gray. A group of 10 university students, all experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, gathered at the edge of civilization, preparing for a grueling 200-mile trek across snowfields, frozen rivers, and mountain passes. The goal? Otorten, a remote peak whose name in the indigenous Mansi language ominously means, "Don't go there." They didn't listen. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, level-headed and admired by his peers. Alongside him were 8 men and 2 women, all young, physically fit, and full of life. Photos recovered later would show them smiling, posing in the snow, assembling skis and tents. They joked, wrote in journals, and played harmonicas by firelight. Their expedition was carefully planned, with daily checkpoints and communication expected. But as the days passed, no word came, and one of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, had turned back early due to illness, a decision that likely saved his life. The rest continued on, disappearing into a blizzard that would never give them back. When the group failed to return on schedule, search parties were launched. What they found weeks later would enter the annals of unsolved horror: a ripped tent, slashed from the inside, bodies scattered across the slope, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, and eyes and tongues missing. And it all started here, with a team of brilliant, hopeful youth walking cheerfully into the white silence. As the group moved deeper into the Ural wilderness, their entries in journals and snapshots captured glimpses of their final days. The weather worsened, but spirits remained high. They sang songs, discussed philosophy, and even made lighthearted notes in their diaries. One of the last known photographs shows them building a tent in the snow, exhausted but smiling. In her final journal entry, Zinaida Kolmogorova wrote about the biting wind and their efforts to stay warm. "We can bear anything," she scribbled, "even this terrible cold." On February 1st, the group pitched their tent on the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl, the mountain of the dead, according to Mansi legend. It was a puzzling choice. They were just a mile from a wooded area that would have offered shelter, yet they stayed exposed on the open slope. Some believe they didn't want to lose altitude. Others think they may have become disoriented in the storm. That night, something happened, something terrifying enough to cause all 9 hikers to flee their tent in socks and underwear, leaving behind knives, boots, and coats. They cut the tent from the inside and ran into the subzero night. Why? What were they running from? Weeks passed, and with no contact from the hikers, the search intensified. On February 26th, a rescue team stumbled upon a haunting sight. The group's tent, half buried in snow, torn open from the inside. It was as if they'd slashed their way out in a panic. Inside, everything was still there: boots, jackets, stoves, diaries, as if they'd left suddenly and irrationally. The snow outside revealed bare footprints leading downhill, barefoot, some in socks. The tracks continued for nearly 500 meters before vanishing into the drifts. Further down the slope, the first 2 bodies were found: Doroshenko and Krivonishenko, lying by a fire pit near a cedar tree. They were nearly naked, burned on their hands, suggesting they tried to stay warm or climb the tree for shelter. Nearby branches were broken several meters high, as if someone had desperately tried to climb or escape something. 3 more bodies were discovered between the tent and the cedar tree: Igor Dyatlov, Rustem Slobodin, and Zinaida Kolmogorova, sprawled in the snow as if they had tried to crawl back, their expressions frozen in terror. Some had fractured skulls, but no visible external wounds. It would take months before the last 4 were found. They were buried deeper in the snow, in a ravine further into the woods. Their injuries were even more disturbing: crushed chests, broken ribs, one woman missing her tongue and eyes. And yet, there were no signs of a struggle, no animal tracks, no avalanche path, just silence and mystery. What happened on that mountainside remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of the 20th century. With no conclusive cause of death, the Dyatlov Pass Incident has become a breeding ground for theories, some grounded in science, others veering into the supernatural. One early explanation was avalanche, that the hikers heard a rumble and fled to avoid being crushed. But experts found no signs of an avalanche. The slope wasn't steep enough, and the tent was still mostly upright. Their footprints remained intact. A slide would have erased them. Others suspected military involvement. In 1959, the Cold War cast long shadows. Some believe the group stumbled upon secret weapons testing. Perhaps parachute mines detonated above the snow. That could explain the internal trauma without external wounds. Locals even reported strange orange orbs in the sky at the time, a detail buried in initial reports. There's also talk of infrasound, low-frequency sound waves caused by wind patterns in the mountains. These waves, theorized by researcher Donnie Ikar, could trigger panic, hallucinations, or irrational behavior. If the group succumbed to overwhelming dread, it could explain their frantic escape. Others whisper of something more unnatural. The Mansi people long regarded Kholat Syakhl as cursed. Could ancient spirits have driven the hikers to their deaths? Or did they encounter something inhuman in the dark? No theory answers all the questions. Why the missing tongue? Why the burned hands? Why crush injuries with no bruises? Why strip in subzero temperatures? The Dyatlov Pass Incident leaves us with chilling silence and a snowfield that never gave up its secrets. In the decades since the Dyatlov Pass Incident, the snow may have buried the bodies, but it never buried the questions. The case remained officially unsolved for over 60 years. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation, not to solve it, but to finally put it to rest. They concluded that the deaths were caused by an avalanche. But for many, scientists, skeptics, and the hikers' own families, this felt like a rushed conclusion, a convenient answer. Today, the site of the tragedy is marked by a memorial cross, standing tall amid the snow and silence. Hikers from around the world trek to Dyatlov Pass, not just for the terrain, but to pay respects. Some leave flowers, others leave notes in the wind. Over time, theories continued to evolve. Some researchers suggest a rare slab avalanche, where a block of snow detaches silently. Others argue the tent's placement and the group's behavior don't match that theory. Then there are the photos recovered from the group's cameras, haunting images that still puzzle investigators. One frame in particular shows a dark, blurry figure at the tree line. Some say it's a poorly exposed shot. Others whisper Yeti. Books, documentaries, podcasts, and conspiracy forums have kept the mystery alive. But at the heart of it all are 9 young lives, frozen in time. Their faces, full of joy and hope, still smile in photographs, now yellowing with age. Whatever happened that night, it was enough to make trained hikers flee into negative 30 degrees Celsius temperatures, to tear through their own tent, to die crawling through the dark. We may never know the truth, but in the wind over Kholat Syakhl, you might still hear their footsteps, or something else entirely. The Ural mountains remain still. The snow falls as it always has, gently, indifferently, covering the land that once swallowed 9 bright souls. Igor, Zinaida, Rustem, Ludmila, Alexander, Semyon, Yuri, and their friends. They were young, talented, full of dreams. They didn't die in battle, nor by accident. They died in mystery. And in that mystery, their story became legend. Every year, new hikers retrace their path. Some do it for the thrill. Others seek answers. But all of them return haunted. Theories will continue. Debates will never end. Was it nature? Madness? Something ancient? Something we were never meant to understand? Some questions are never meant to be answered. Some stories remain with the mountains. And the wind, if you ever find yourself at Dyatlov Pass, may whisper names or warnings, because long after footprints fade, the cold never forgets. If this chilling tale stirred something in you, there's more waiting behind the veil. Subscribe to Twilight Vaulted Tales, where true horror whispers through time. One story, one mystery, one shiver at a time. Don't forget to hit the bell, because some stories, they come knocking when you least expect it.